This podcast is sponsored by Tusk, an open source non-ICO crypto project powered by community. Check them out on the web at tusk.network. That's TUSC.network. The Rob McNealy program is the nexus of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, welcome to the program. Hey folks, Rob McNealy here, and today I am super excited. I am talking to Joe Roets. He is one of the founders of Dragonchain. They are a project been around for some time, and I think this is going to be a really fun show. So make sure you listen to the whole show, because I know you guys out there, you listen for 5 minutes and then you shut it off. You got to stop doing that stuff, because I can tell that you're doing that stuff. All right, I really can't. I'm just guessing. But anyways, Joe, welcome to the show. How are you today, sir?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm great.
So let's just jump in here, man. You know, typical questions for a podcast, like, who is Joe Roets? Tell me about yourself.
Okay. I grew up in the Midwest. I'm a 25 plus year software architect. I'm all about software, all about open source, all about scaling software. And I've worked for Lockheed. I've worked for Disney. I've worked for a lot of interesting firms that had interesting projects that attracted me. And I came across Bitcoin. One of my guys brought it into the team in 2010, and we looked at it and started playing with it, experimenting with it, doing a lot of different interesting things, some stupid, some fun, really early stuff. And this is, the time of Namecoin and way before Ethereum and way before much else was out there, and ended up jumping around between a few different startups, because I was very interested in the tech and specifically in its philosophical value, where it came from, why it was even there, and then ended up at Disney to build what became Dragonchain. And that Disney released from in its own enterprise to the world, and after that we commercialized. So
tell me about that. So it was initially a Disney project that got spun out. So did they just open source it, or was it something that was always kind of that open source community kind of thing? What's the relationship there now?
We originally built it. It was, very much an experiment. It was very much a bunch of us that were interested in the tech and how we could use it inside of Disney. But I knew, because we were working inside of W3C, their blockchain group, to basically explore enterprise applications and what could be standardized and everything else. And we ended up realizing that all these other entities, IBM, Microsoft, a lot of the other groups, some of the banks that were in there, were interested in how we were doing it, because what we were describing was stuff that they hadn't been able to do, because we started from scratch. We didn't fork Ethereum. Ethereum didn't exist when we started. We didn't fork Bitcoin or Litecoin or anything else. We literally started from the beginning, and we had that's the reason I even say that I'm primarily a software architect. I'm a software guy, and these things that are patterns in all systems, that's what I focus on. So I find the abstractions inside of a software system that can either make it more flexible, make it more scalable, make it more secure, and I applied that across the board to basically blockchain and crypto. That's what Dragonchain is. And when they realized that we were using devs that weren't blockchain devs, they were the devs we already had, and that they were able to come in and just build stuff. When we were able to show them that we could actually scale in a radically different way than what they had seen, I was able to then take some of their questions that we couldn't answer because it was all on the inside back to Disney and say, hey, can we go through a process and try to open source this? And they already had a process in place, and so it made sense. It made sense for Disney, it made sense for the project, and it made sense for our working with these other groups. So that's how it kind of ended up. And they basically, we went through, and it's now we've made it public, the process we went through. but it was a pretty intensive and interesting process that would involve the legal, it involved patents, trademarks, it involved the code itself, security, and making sure that we pulled out proprietary code and things like that. But they just open sourced it, and part of that, they have a really interesting process that they they have to hand over the code to the person on the outside, and typically it's somebody who's still working at Disney and whose manager or VP sponsor has basically said, yeah, you can spend every Friday working on this, or something like that. And with our team, we had a team that was across a whole bunch of different business units, and so our sponsoring manager didn't have anything on my time, so we had to like broker deals between the groups and stuff like that. And on the way out, when they were going to hand it over to me personally, I asked them, hey, can you guys approve me to create a foundation so we can say that we'll own the IP, we'll own the code, so it won't be Joe, and it worked out. So it was pretty interesting.
So what did you intend for your blockchain to do? Was there like a specific problem you're kind of trying to solve with it?
Enterprise adoption, if that were the specific, because core capabilities of blockchain and cryptocurrency being proof that something happened at a particular point in time, and that being the core of what even Bitcoin actually gives, is used to, Bitcoin is that is used to prevent double spend, to provide scarcity, but it's all related to the fact that that block can, with a measured amount of security, that it's an actual measurable amount of security that's been applied to whether you trust that these transactions occurred between these 2 points in time. And so we basically were looking, okay, all of the core abstracted capabilities of the technology itself, blockchain, we wanted to leverage in ways that you couldn't do at the time with Bitcoin, and you couldn't do when Ethereum came out, which is any reasonable business is not going to put customer PII on chain. They're not going to, there's HIPAA data, there's all types of things they can't do, and we wanted to make all of that possible, and to make it much more straightforward for a real business to use.
So how did it end up working out?
We did. So on the inside, we did over 20 different use cases. We did a lot of different things. Some of them were internal hackathons and things like that, but there were a lot of groups that were using and building. And when we open sourced, we went for a year fully on just straight open source, managing the community, education, trying to figure out what we needed to work on most. And in that year, we realized that the actual rollout and scaling, it was missing the ease of use factor. The architecture is very simple; it's easy to code to, but to deploy it, the model that came out of Disney was a very large organization that can run all of the nodes themselves if they wanted to, because they have enough business units that you'd have the diversity, so that all of the enterprise can see, okay, these are the transactions going through everywhere and all that. But we very much needed it to be a situation that if someone wanted to build something, they didn't have to worry about the verification network, right? That it would be provided for them. And so that's why we commercialized, and we created an entity and really decided to build the network and to build the infrastructure to allow people to deploy more easily.
So you built something from scratch, which in blockchain is kind of weird, right? Everybody just kind of forks an existing code base that's been vetted and beat up a little bit. How would you say Dragonchain is different than, say, the code base for Ethereum, or the code base for Bitcoin, or some of the graphene based blockchains?
It is. It's an interesting thing because, like all of the faux pas that you would have for saying, "Okay, I'm going to create my own," um, are not necessarily applicable because we are definitely not coding our own encryption or coding our, any of the cryptography is all, used from outside. So I wouldn't want to say that. It is more than anything a structural piece where we, for one thing, there are a lot of different things about it, that it is primarily just software, and that at every level of our consensus process, we are actually working with independent nodes where every node has its own blockchain. And the consensus is not, it's a hybrid network, so the consensus is not universal. That is, I own my own business. I have a business node that I'm either ledgering transactions on or I'm running smart contracts on, and I can keep that, by default, it's fully private. And the only thing that moves up through consensus is the protocol elements, which are basically the wrappers. So my payload itself is fully controlled by me. I can expose it publicly if I want, but for a regular business, it's very fitting. All the same models apply, that it's as if I'm working on a server and I'm storing my stuff there and I'm using it. But the difference is that the wrappers around what I'm doing are all going through a six separate DragonNet nodes, and then a combined security of Ethereum and Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic and whatever else we're interchaining with at the time, which is for the proof. So now I can basically show a vendor, or later the courts, if I'm getting sued, I can show somebody this is exactly what happened, and you don't even have to trust me. You can actually do the math all the way up to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And we really, from the early days, knew that we wanted to leverage the tremendous hash power of Bitcoin and any other network, but also the utility that is, especially early on, when we knew that, the ability to interchain with stores or with Siacoin or any of the other important utility networks, that we could, as well as traditional, that we've done plenty of integrations with RESTful API, very traditional systems, that because of our model, it's remarkably easy. I mean, our time to markets are, for most of the projects we've been on, are really short, really fast build outs. So it's pretty cool. And it also helps with scaling, because then the fact that every node has its own chain means they can all be independently scaled. They can run with full cloud environments. And gosh, see, this is a really long answer.
It's a good answer, though.
The other side of that is, when you get into that, one of the other very unique pieces that most people don't get yet is our actual scaling is based not on hardware, because we're cloud based. So we already knew that we could have ended up, if we're trying to incentivize people to run nodes so that we have diversity there, that you could have a race to the bottom, because gosh, I'm just going to deploy into Amazon. I'm going to throw up enough nodes to handle 80% of the network and undercut everybody on my what I'm going to accept, charge for fees, right? And in order to prevent that, we flipped the scarcity on its head and said, okay, instead of saying hardware scarcity, where most blockchains out there, if you have more transactions coming through, there's hopefully more fees usually, and therefore more people will procure hardware and put it in place and build the network, right? And you hope that it's sustained traffic, so that the person doesn't that the fees continue and the traffic continues. And the issue is the time between the traffic start and when people can actually deploy hardware, which, if it's in cloud, it can be pretty quick, but it's not immediate, right? And particularly if it's not something that's easily done in cloud because you're requiring hash power or anything else, it's even more difficult. So what we did is we took what was called DDSS, which was a slumber score, which is a time-based component to our token. So if you hold a one dragon for one day, you get one time. If you hold 1 million dragons for one day, you get 1 million time for that day. And we take that time, and that's the scarcity. So all the nodes in the network are competing based upon how long they've held how many dragons, and they get more of the cut. But on the other side, the radically, at least to me, interesting part for adoption and scalability is the fact that the more time I have as a business that I want to apply to my node, the lower my fees are, right? And so, but it's a deterministic fixed price fee for every transaction I send through. And the token price inside the system adjusts every month based upon market. But to the general business user, they don't really care. They're basically, I'm going to pay my, $5,000, $10,000 a month for my node or nodes. And I know that I have at least this many transactions. And I know that the transactions will not go up in price, that I won't have trouble getting a transaction on chain or anything else, no matter who else deploys on the network, right? The, CryptoKitties comes out, it doesn't kill me. DeFi comes out, it doesn't kill me, right? Because right now it's really hard on Ethereum to do business, and it's really unpredictable, 1 minute to the next. But with Dragonchain, that if you lock in the fees, and our lowest fee right now is 10 millionths of a dollar per transaction. And so you can lock in that number, and when you have these, you have the 500 million transactions you're going to have this month, that it is absolutely going to be at that fixed price. You don't have to worry as a business. You don't have to worry about getting them on chain. All that's cooked in.
So would you say, can you launch a token on your platform on Dragon? Is that part of that, or do you not do smart contracts the same way?
We do smart contracts, and we do have tokens, and we have something that we've termed a wormhole tech. It's basically, if you consider something as, you consider Ethereum as a different universe, and Ethereum Classic is a different universe, and maybe I don't know what other preferred, maybe EOS or somewhere else that I might have a token that we can map them back and forth. We do that with dragons. That's how dragons operate already, where we use Ethereum for its ecosystem, its token standards and security, right? And it means that we didn't have to build our own hardware wallets. We didn't have to do a lot of things. We were leveraging Ethereum for that utility. And you can do that already. We've had quite a few people do it, and we've helped out a lot with that. But it's a scaling question for that, right? Where there's no reason in many cases for every single transaction to be on Ethereum. Instead, if you put it on Dragonchain, it's secured to Ethereum and secured to Bitcoin. And so you can prove all that. But then when you're actually integrating, like say it's a game, that the game can be played. You could roll this into a normie game where there's no blockchain sold as part of it. But when people realize, oh, I have this this device, this sword, this something that I have accumulated enough of, and maybe I don't need this one or something else, that I can realize at that point, oh, this is crypto. You mean I could sell this somewhere? How do I do that? And it's an adoption question, because then you can get people to play your game without them already being crypto people, which is such a niche of a niche of a niche. To get normies to play it, but then to attract normies into your token, where they're like, oh gosh, I was already having fun. Now I realize I can make money doing this, right? Where at that point, that's when you integrate with the crypto side, and there's a cost involved, or people pay fees or whatever else. But at that point, it sets its own threshold, right? That right now you'd have to have a lot more value in Ethereum to exit in order to make it worth the fee, right? But it kind of depends on how much is sitting there.
Well, I know going back to with our project with Tusk, when we started out, we were an ETH token, and for us, the nail in the coffin to build our own blockchain and move away from Ethereum was the F-Coin debacle 2 years ago, where they were just spamming the Ethereum blockchain. And like it is right now, the cost to move tokens costs more than the tokens people wanted to move, because of the transaction fees, which makes no sense to me. And I have a lot of strong opinions, but because I've been in as a project for a couple of years now as well, and it doesn't make sense to me the way Ethereum was designed from a usability standpoint. It's like it's baffling to me how they came up with the system the way it did. But it's fascinating. So I always like to talk about when I talk to people that are developing projects and stuff, and how do you get adoption? What is your strategy to get people to use Dragonchain to build things on?
Well, we've gone through a number, and some of them were, you could get into libertarian side of things with, our initial piece to the engine was to have what we called the incubator, or early on became Dragon Scale, which was supposed to be a very clean way to get incentivized input from people on the outside as to which projects should be moved forward, right? And so there's some funding to that, but there's some selection to that and attention, and we had a lot of really key features where it would have flatly solved a lot of the problems that the SEC is concerned about, or other regulators, where how do I avoid people, how do I avoid exit scams? How do I avoid, we had all that cooked in where it's a very clean way to be fair on both sides, where, early information, if it is correct, could be well rewarded, right? So, people are incentivized to not lie. People are incentivized to, and on the other side, the projects are incentivized to actually deliver, because if they don't deliver, they don't get their distributions of whatever the funding is. And we had to pull back from some of that because we're U.S. based, which was sad, because that was clearly an advantage for adoption. We had a lot of interested parties, and we're trying still to find. We have a new take on it that we think we could launch in the U.S., but it's not a top priority right now. And we are actually actively looking for partners to do it internationally, that whether it's for grants or other selection, but VCs would be kind of primary. But right now what we're working on is simply scale, to be the system that can actually compete against traditional systems for scale, and definitely trump them on security and various other features that blockchain makes it's pretty obvious in that world. And so we're really focused there, and we just launched a new pricing table where we had wanted an update for quite a while, where now a transaction fee is anywhere from $1 on the high end to, like I said, the 10 millionths of a dollar, and we're getting a lot of interest because of that, and a lot of people are starting to realize what's possible. We're also trying to do a lot of things that might to some seem a little bit it's like they might not understand, but we launched Den.social, and that's basically a community forum that is native blockchain. So everything on the back end, and there's mining, and we really are trying to build out stuff that people can use, both normal people and enterprises, right? So we just launched Dragon Factor MiFi, which is a decentralized identity system that the back end has been operational for over 2 years. And we're just now, okay, we want to productize this now. We want other people to be able to use this like we have, and we have some really interesting aspects that we found a partner that could help us with some of the integrations that, frankly, were more, banking focused. Typically things that banks do with identity were needed, but we're rolling in the ability to do it in a decentralized way where the user holds their own identity factors and can expose them as they wish, right? They don't have to expose everything. They can expose just the smallest bit of information that passes whatever the business needs. We're basically, our strategy overall is very fundamentals based, where we build and build and build, and we figure out, what does someone need? We build it. We figure out, okay, what would be a good demonstration of that capability? We build it. And we've done it enough. We have a couple of systems that really are well used. We get a lot of transactions on Eternal, as an example, people saving tweets and saving, various arbitrary information that they want to be able to prove later. I'll make some prediction on Bitcoin price. I'll put it there, and I can prove to you that it's not just a screenshot that I photoshopped. This is literally data proven to hundreds of millions of dollars worth of security. So interesting stuff like that. I don't know. It's hard to cut through noise, though. There's so much noise out there, right?
And it's only getting noisier, isn't it?
Yeah, and all the speculation, all of the sometimes that's a big complaint that I have in the world, right?
I hear you. So opinions, right? What do you think of DeFi?
I don't want to say anything early, right? I saw the Fenton. We almost played the Fenton thing yesterday on our show because it's so well done. If you haven't seen it, him explaining DeFi, but my take is I think that there has to be, and I'm too busy to really research projects like I used to. I used to know everything about everything coming out, but there weren't as many then either. There have to be. I would put money down that there are at least a handful of amazing projects in that space, right? And stuff that's really needed, that's really well done, and it's an amazing future. But somehow they get cut. They lose attention to tendies and yams and stuff, and it's crazy, and it's not good for the industry, I don't think, that stuff, right? And it's always the thing where money is such a powerful driver to all of this. And the reason I even got into this, because I'm a software guy, so the reason I got into this is this was frankly the most exciting place to be in software forever, right? That's the next closest would have been Linux and open source itself, and that's a very general thing. But it's funny because Linux is very much about liberty, right? And whether you talk to Stallman or it's very much about liberty. It's such a key component, and basically Bitcoin embodies that. Bitcoin is radically so. And I've talked before about how the fact that it has, how do I say this? It basically enslaves humans. It incentivizes humans to such a level that it's the most massively focused processing on Earth. Is Bitcoin mining, and it blows away supercomputer metrics and everything else because there's a money driver. And so the key that the world's missing is, at least that this industry is missing, is keeping a balance between that and the fundamentals, because it's so easy for something like DeFi to come along. It's like, oh, it's a way to make money, it's going to go up next week. All that matters is a green bar. It doesn't matter what it does at all. And there's value to that because it can drive people to be interested. But the problem is when people are lazy and they don't actually research, or they buy tokens and don't actually try to, the real incentive should literally be, if you hold a token, and based upon your holdings, really, you should be focused on how can I help those projects? Because literally that is the best thing. It's not good to say, I bought this token and what are you guys doing, right? Why is this token up? Why is this token price not going up? That's so backwards. It's like, people shouldn't be lazy. You hold in our case, our tokens are software licenses. Literally, they are modeled from the beginning. We even have a patent on that, on the token model as a software license, that it was supposed to be the answer licensing answer to what happens right now with commodity compute, with Amazon. You shouldn't be paying monthly still. You should be paying as part of, and the fact that you are paying for however much CPU you use fits, and we just tokenize that. And so if you're holding Dragons, you should be actively seeking integrations, business, even marketing, whatever your talents are, right? But a lot of people get lazy, and it happens on all the projects, where people just want it to go up, and it's yeah.
Well, I always say you can't bank on people not being lazy. In fact, I think the reverse. I think you have to build systems that assumes that, and then tries to figure out how to incentivize those people. Because we run into the same thing, right? Telegram group, why not go up, or whatever. It's like, and it's pretty interesting. I do agree with you. I think people should do their research, should do homework, and should be more active in supporting. I'm not sure that's realistic.
Well, here's the difference. It's like, I can see that. It's the weirdest thing, though, because you think about it. Most businesses, they have customers, and the customers have their products, and they don't care otherwise, right? But Apple and a few other companies have had something where it's almost like a cult, where people will actively promote for no money, right? So there's something psychological there. The intent, though, of crypto is that the incentive is built in. You actually own the token. Nobody can take it away from you. You should literally be as incentivized as possible to actually try to promote it. And sometimes you can see it, but it's not maybe focused right. Anyway.
Well, it's interesting because you see, I say success breeds success, right? Like if it's starting to become popular, then people want to be a part of that and talk about it. That's that tribal mentality, I think. And even with us, when, our project, we're not anywhere near where you guys are, but it's like, we can see when we have an announcement or, something cool really happens, it just gets people excited and they talk more about it. When things are boring or slow or not going the right direction, people get quiet about it. And I think part of that with crypto, it's about that tribal identity, and people want to associate with the winning team. They don't want to associate with losing teams. That's why it's like, Bitcoin maximalist, right? I'm not a big fan of maxis on any project, but, if you look at Bitcoin maximalists, it's like, okay, well, you just went to the #1 football team and then you signed up for them and you're their cheerleader. Well, that's lazy. That does, it's just like, okay, just sit there. Yay, great #1 team. Keep going, and it's like, there's more to it than that. But I do appreciate your time, and I think it's good stuff. And I'm going to be doing a little more research in Dragon. I haven't, inspired me to kind of do my own research here and spend a little more time looking at what you guys are doing, because you are doing some different things. And I think, I hope the listeners here will take a look at Dragonchain as well and see what you guys are doing. And, I hope in the future you guys can come back, or you can come back on and let me know when you got some cool, projects happening or some cool announcements or something. I'd really like that. So, Joe, where can people find out more about you and Dragonchain?
Dragonchain.com primary. We also do various things on den.social. And, you can reach out to us on Telegram. There are multiple official and unofficial Telegram groups in multiple languages. We even have multiple language layers now in den.social, so people can at least read about and ask about Dragonchain in their own language with their own, people that can answer them directly. So it's pretty nice. There are a lot of places, I guess.
Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Thank you for listening to the Rob McNealy program. Make sure you check us out on the web at robmcnealy.com and subscribe to our podcast at YouTube, iTunes, and on the Google Play Store.